But I did regain a lot of the health that I lost with juicing. And I remember at that time, this is before I had my youngest child, my fourth child, you can just eat until you're completely full and satiated. So I get up in the morning, I might have 10 eggs for breakfast. That's what I had this morning. And then depending on whether I feel like I need extra fat or not, I might add butter to that.
Okay.
You know, with or without butter. And then for lunch, I might have a kilo of chicken wings. And then for dinner, I might have steak. Sometimes I'm eating 5,000-6,000 calories a day.
Hello, welcome to Resistance Podcast. My name's Emma Dunwell and I am here with Carnivore Coach Rachel. It's so nice to meet you. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you kind of came to social media on the whole carnivore diet scene and how you came to find out about it?
Yeah, so I'm Rachel and I'm at Carnivore.fitness on social media, mainly Instagram. That's if you want to find me and you want to be interactive with me, then find me there. So basically 5.5 years ago, I was actually doing the keto diet, and then I come across all these people I thought were crazy in the carnivore space, and it made me look, and it made me, once I started it and realised the health benefits, it made me want to share with others. So that's when I started my journey, really posting and growing my Instagram account.
So for those who might not know, can we just talk a little bit about what the keto is? So isn't that the removal of carbs? What's that supposed to do for you?
It's the removal of carbs, but you still have basically the meat is still high fats, and then you have some vegetables in there as well. It's you don't have much fruit in there, obviously, aside from avocados. You would have avocados in there if you choose to, but yeah, it's basically concentrating on a moderate amount of protein, high fat, and low carbs, like up to 20 grams net carbs per day.
So you said you've been doing the carnivore diet for about 5.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right in thinking that you set out originally to do the carnivore diet in order to disprove it?
Yes.
So how did that go? How did you come to the realization that, oh, hang on a minute, this is working? What did you start to notice?
So I always thought that vegetables were really important, and I used to always pile my plate high. My children I used to make sure that they would eat lots of vegetables and had lots of tactics to make sure that they did. And then what happened was I come across these people, obviously when I was doing the keto diet, I was counting net carbs. And the reason why you count net carbs is then you can have more vegetables.
Right.
Because you subtract like the fibre off of there, and that is how you find the net carbs. Yeah, and it wasn't until I come across this space and I thought actually it's it kind of flipped everything around what I was thinking.
It's really, really interesting because I mean there have been some really big figures talking about this. I mean, Jordan Peterson and his daughter cured themselves, you could say, of some quite serious, almost disabilities. At a certain point, their health was getting so dire, and they switched over to the carnivore diet, and they couldn't believe the results they were seeing. Obviously, on your page, you spoke a lot about the healthy weight loss, but the gaining of the muscle tone and the improvement of the muscle tone. You also said, correct me if I'm wrong, you lost 7 pounds in the first week of doing the carnivore diet and then another 7 pounds the following week. Did it get to a point, because obviously I imagine that if it had carried on going 7 pounds a week, that would have, did you get to any point where you thought, am I losing a bit too much weight? Or was it just, I feel great, there is nothing wrong with this is absolutely brilliant, I've never had a diet like this before, and kind of throwing yourself into it from there?
Strangely, for the first time, it's the first diet that I've tried that I didn't find any downsides to, which is really bizarre. Normally, you're like, you might be following a diet, but you're still hungry, but you're looking better, so you carry on doing it. But this diet, fully fed, feeling really good, sleeping well, mood drastically improved, all that kind of stuff. Yet everything else is also coming into line, even though I'm, sometimes I'm eating 5,000-6,000 calories a day. And it's not that I'm starving myself. It's not that I'm restricting, nothing like that. It just makes me feel really good. And the nice thing is it is easy to build muscle.
Yeah.
When you're eating so much fat and protein.
So you see, it seems to be like this is an actual diet that still satisfies you? Because I think when most people hear diet, they think of the typical, cutting out all junk food and things like that. And people are always like, oh, I really miss my chocolate, or I really miss this and whatever. And you don't seem to have struggled with any of that. It was once you found this, it was like, nope, this is great. It feels good. I don't even miss any of that sort of stuff, which is really interesting and sets it apart from other diets.
Yeah, so it is quite normal for people to lose all cravings, but they can only do that if they don't restrict.
Yeah.
So some people hear carnivore diet and they start really restricting because they think, well, I'm on a diet now. I've got to starve myself till this time. I've got to intermittent fast and I've got to do all this stuff. But that's actually not the case. You can just eat until you're completely full and satiated, and then not worry about it again until you're hungry again.
So could you tell us a little bit about just on your average day-to-day, what would you average eat? Is it followed by a very specific workout regimen? What's kind of your day-to-day routine with the whole diet and fitness?
So I would say the workout routine isn't a necessity, but it should be done because it's going to help with your bone health. And obviously muscle mass is tightly correlated with longevity. So those things are a benefit, and you can see that their muscles are more defined, and they just get improvements on body composition. But with me, so I get up in the morning, I might have 10 eggs for breakfast. That's what I had this morning. And then depending on whether I feel like I need extra fat or not, I might add butter to that.
Okay.
With or without butter. And then for lunch, I might have a kilo of chicken wings. And then for dinner, I might have steak.
These are the things that when people hear, they expect, your health to be poor, cholesterol, blood sugar, all these different types of things. But I mean, I hope you don't mind me saying, you are a picture of health. Your skin is fantastic.
Thank you.
And then you see these people virtually killing themselves in the name of veganism, and skipping out these essential fats, salts, and things like this that our body needs. So what would your reaction be to people like Dr. Sebi and other people who promote the vegan lifestyle?
The one thing that I say when anyone brings up Dr. Sebi is, did he look healthy? Did he? Because he had enlarged stomach and he was very bony everywhere else. So he was skin and bones everywhere. And then his stomach was very, it was pronounced, it's protruding. So when you look at health, and visceral fat is one of the easiest ways to determine risk between heart attack and heart disease and some other complications as well. So when you have someone that's extremely skinny everywhere, but then they do have a bit of a stomach, that is an indication of them storing visceral fat, which is very dangerous.
Right. I watched another podcast that you did, and in there you floated the idea that the most vegan thing that you can do is to eat meat. Could you go into a little bit about why that is, how that makes sense, and just tell our viewers a little bit about the degradation of nature compared with veganism and carnivore?
Yeah, I do stand by that. I do stand by what I said. And actually, when you look into it, and there's a lot of people that are vegan that haven't looked into it and they don't realise. So when you look at the farming, the farming ways, if you're going to eat a grass-fed cow, say, that one cow can feed, depending on how much people eat, but say a cow is, I'm going to just say 272 kilos. Well, that meat, for someone who's going to eat meat every day, would last them for, what are the numbers now? I believe that a medium-sized cow would feed someone like myself for 272 days, something like that, around that anyway. But that's one death. And they're just grazing on the grass. And actually what they're doing for biodiversity is really good as well, because they're introducing bugs back in. There's the life cycle that is meant to happen. They're urinating and they're actually defecating on the ground. And that is being trod into the ground, which is feeding nutrients into the soil, into the plants, into the grass, and even weeds and things like that are growing that actually bring life to that field, if you're thinking of a farm. So then if you actually look at crop farms, and with the crop farms, they actually spray chemical pesticides on everything. Those pesticides kill all the bugs. And imagine then you've got birds that are eating the bugs, and then the birds, they die from the pesticide poisoning. If there's heavy rainfall, that pesticides will wash into surrounding streams, lakes, and sometimes oceans, depending on where you're situated. That can create dead zones. And then if you think about when they're actually harvesting the crop, the farmers send hunters in to shoot the different animals that are eating the crops, because they've got to protect their livelihood. They're making money on these crops, so they can't have animals eating them. It's not like a fairy tale where everything is just sort of existing together. No, they have to be quite strict. They're not allowed to let the animals eat those crops. So they actually have hunters with various different methods, might be using traps, might be using animals. I think there's a term where they beat on the ground and they get the animals to come up and then they kill them. There's lots of different tactics anyway, but the animals don't survive it. You get deer that are shot and, all sorts. Depending on what area you're in, that will have different animals killed that are going to be trying to eat the crops. There's a lot of death with that. And then with, obviously, as I said before, with regenerative farming, it's completely different. They're grazing on the grass. And then there's that one death. And it's going to feed a family for a long time.
So I think it's really interesting how you talk about the natural cycle of it. Obviously, cows are biologically meant to produce for us in the way that they do. I mean, right down to their urination and defecation, like you said, it going into the ground. It's very nutritious for the soil and it helps things to grow. It's a great fertilizer. Now, I believe that cows have 4 stomachs. So naturally, whatever they produce, whether it be the feces that they produce for the crops, or whether it be the milk that we drink, it almost be incredibly filtered because it has to go through quite an extensive system. It's not like it's just any other animal doing it, and yet we feel the need to pasteurize and shove chemicals into all these things. I mean, obviously everything that's hitting the news at the moment about Bovaer. I don't know if you wanted to share your views on that.
I haven't looked deeply into that. I know that I go to a farm, so I'm bypassing that issue with that one. And I suggest that anyone that is looking into cow's milk should go into a raw dairy, which would be much better, because if you're looking at pasteurization, as you said before, it gets rid of all the enzymes, and it makes it more problematic for people to digest because you need those enzymes there. It's just completely different product once you've pasteurized it. If you have the raw milk, you see a thick layer of cream on top. You can even spoon that cream off and make butter really easily. My daughter makes it when she wants, and she makes it very easily. So it's much more resourceful. And I think going back to what you said about the cow and using different parts, you can literally use everything. You can actually have that cow's life. We're sacrificing a cow, but you can actually use everything. Nothing has to go to waste.
Yeah, you could honor it in a way by using every last scrap.
Skin. You can use the skin. You can use everything. And actually, we do. Money is, there's animal products in money. There's animal products in our phones. There's so many different in the ground. The roads. It's used regularly, and it's actually the better way. If we're going to go to the vegan ways, which is fake leather and it's made from plastics and other things like that, that's really quite toxic, and we need to be avoiding that.
Yeah, it's all done in the name of health, but then the longer that it's done, it's not healthy. It's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can sound really idyllic, eat from the rainbow and let's not kill something. But then when you scratch the surface, and the surface really isn't that thick, and you want to do your own research and you realise actually there's so many deaths in crop farming. And when you do use an animal, they're using the whole animal. They use the animal for glue. They use it for so many different things. Actually, when you really look into it, there's just no question of what we should be doing. And, it's very natural. If you start messing with nature, that's when you have problems.
There was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about different types of meat, and if you have a preference or if there's any sort of nutritional benefit to one versus the other. And I want to talk to you a little bit about liver. I watched a podcast where you said that at the beginning of the diet, you ate liver, I believe it was every day. Mm-hmm. It was so you were eating quite a lot of it. You also said that it's important not to eat too much of it. So I was just wondering if you could go into a little bit about the do's and don'ts with liver, the benefits, the possible downsides, and if there are there such things as the best meats and most nutritious meats? And could you talk us through that?
Yeah. So I'm probably going to trigger some people here that think that organs are an absolute must, but they're actually not. If you're craving organs and that's something that tastes nice, because, you know, we have taste buds for a reason. Obviously, we mess our taste buds up by eating all these artificial foods and things that we shouldn't be eating, and we can be get these cravings from chemicals that are put on the foods and stuff like that. But if you take all of that away and your body is performing how it's meant to, you can really trust your taste buds. So it might be that one day I really enjoy liver. And as you said, in the beginning of my journey, I was eating liver every day because I craved it and I actually enjoyed it. Got to about 2 or 3 months in and I started to detest it. And
Made
actually,
yourself sick of it.
we went to Spain last month with on a carnivore retreat, and there's like lots of people there all carnivore, and there was some liver there one day, and I thought I'm just going to give it a try, see if I like it now. One bite, I was like, nope, someone else eat it, I don't want to eat it. So basically what I like to get people thinking about is, years ago when we were hunters and gatherers, the men in the tribe would go out and they would hunt the animals, and they would bring the kill back for their families and it would be divided out. So if you think of a big cow, for instance, the organs of that cow probably take up something like 10% of the kill. So you're never going to be able to eat liver every single day in large amounts in that setting. And it's really unnatural to do that. Actually, the majority of your meat will be muscle meat. And that is where we're going to get most of our nutrients from. If you overeat on liver, you can, you know, too much of a good thing can be bad. It's very high in lots of nutrients, vitamin A, vitamin C. It's super high in vitamin C. But if you're going to overeat that, and you should let your taste buds tell you when you're overeating it, like I did. And I kind of ate it, and then got to a point where I was like, no, my body's got enough of those nutrients that I needed. And that's why I was craving it. And now I don't need any more. If you do it that way, I find that people get on really well. But if they force and eat lots of liver or other organs because they're forcing themselves, because they think that they're doing the best thing, those are the people that end up having to reintroduce something, or they have a electrolyte imbalance, or there's some kind of issue that they have to reintroduce something.
Well, there was an interesting character, I believe, around in the 1930s, Weston A. Price, who went to Inuit communities before sort of roads were built that were connecting these different places. So they were somewhat isolated, smaller communities, and they ate only meat because that was all that was available. And he noticed that they were all in perfect health, absolutely perfect health. And I believe there was some kind of games that they used to do, and this tiny little village would always win every single year. They were in absolute top peak physical condition, and they were all eating meat. And then I believe that once the roads were introduced and they started, you know, being able to trade with other places, they started getting deliveries in, imports and things like that, and they started having a more westernized, sugary diet and everything like that. Then all of a sudden their children were born with deformities. A great example was when Price went out there to begin with, he noticed that all of them had no teeth crowding whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, over the years, the more Western their diet got, their children were born with teeth crowding and clubfoot and these weird deformities that they'd never seen before. And that is just such a undisputable bit of evidence there about the degradation of our diet and the lie of the fact that fats and salts and all these types of things are just ultra bad for you.
Yeah. Interesting thing about Weston A. Price is actually his findings used to be what medical doctors would have. You know, they would have his books as reference, and they would go by those, but they've got rid of those now in recent times. He was a dentist and his interest was in teeth and jaw formation. And what he wanted to do was find a vegan community, and he couldn't find one.
Right.
A vegan tribe, basically, he couldn't find one. But what he did find is the more closer to only meat the tribes were, the better their teeth were, the stronger they were. And his other finding was that although these people were not brushing their teeth, they were not doing all these things that, you know, we do, Their teeth were perfectly straight, perfectly white. Their jaw was big enough to fit, all of their teeth that are meant to be in. And I believe there was some kind of thing that they used to do, tradition, that they would knock a tooth out purposely. That is the only way their teeth would be not perfect, perfect set of teeth, is this tradition. I don't even know why they did it. But so he had some really interesting findings, and he came to the conclusion that, we're meant to be eating, all meat, mainly meat. And his findings are very interesting.
It's really, really interesting, because obviously we've got the development of our own physical adaptations. Our incisors teeth and our appendix. Some people think that it was for different purposes, but a lot of people think that it was to break down raw meat and more cartilage and bone when we would eat, kind of everything that we could get our hands on. Now, obviously, we've spoken a bit about the carnivore diet. I wanted to ask you about if there are certain meats other than liver that are particularly the best that you would consider, or that you eat the most.
The ruminant meat is better because they've got the 4 stomachs, and then when they eat the nutrient void grass, their stomach has bacteria in that which makes it nutritious. It goes through a certain cycle, and it turns this nutrient void grass into something that's actually quite nutritious. So it's not the grass that they're eating that's making the nutrients, it's actually their stomach. Also, one thing that I like to say to vegans that are saying, that we should all be herbivores and things like that. Well, all herbivores eat their own poo for B12. Do vegans do that?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Well, I've seen some videos where they actually put urine, where they drink their own urine and they put it on their skin and stuff. I have seen that before. Yeah. But I mean, when you feel that, they don't like to admit it, and I can't speak for every vegan, because there are some vegans out there that probably are healthy for now. But when you really look into it and they start getting to end stage veganism, I call it end stage veganism, when their body's really starting to deteriorate because of the deficiencies, then they start doing drastic things because they don't want to admit it's the veganism. They think, okay, so I'm going to go on an all fruit diet, or, all these different things to try and...
Well, yeah. Another thing that you mentioned on your other podcast that I watched was that every vegan, 9 times out of 10, has to take supplements.
Oh,
you don't have to do that on the carnivore diet. You don't have to take anything. You get everything that you need.
There's nutrients that you cannot get from a vegan diet whatsoever. So it's interesting that you can get everything from animals. And actually, years ago, I would have been like, are you mad? You need plants for this, this, and this. But on paper, plants sound really good. But the thing is with plants is they have anti-nutrients. And these anti-nutrients stop you from absorbing the nutrients that are inside that plant. So it may look good, but we cannot access it. Our body has no way of breaking down and digesting cellulose. So the cellulose is stuck around these nutrients, and we can't do that. We can't separate it out. Herbivores, on the other hand, they can, because they actually ferment their food. And it's a long process. And I don't know if you noticed with herbivores, is they have to constantly eat. Like rabbits have to eat all the time. Think of a gorilla, they always have to eat. We don't have to do that, because we don't have the capacity to do that anyway. But 2, we don't need to do that, because we should be eating high nutrient dense food that actually, satisfies us for longer.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at carnivores in the animal kingdom versus herbivores, I mean, it's usually only carnivores that hibernate successfully, because they have the ability to store the nutrients and everything like that, whereas a herbivore, like you said, would need to be eating constantly every day, multiple times a day, in order to satiate themselves. There was one thing that I wanted to ask you about that kind of ties into the whole food purity argument at the moment. There was an interesting video that I saw on your YouTube Shorts, I believe it was.
Okay.
That was how to get a carnivore breakfast from McDonald's.
Okay.
And the one thing I thought, because obviously McDonald's, they can say, it's 100% beef, but how can you be sure that what you're getting is top quality meat? Because I mean, even if it is 100% beef, we can all, I'm sure we can all agree on that if you go to a lovely organic carvery, you're not going to be getting the same quality of meat if you go and get a plain beef burger from McDonald's. How does that
You can't guarantee it. And actually, you can't guarantee anything with any food, which is really sad, unless you go to a farm and you're speaking to the farmer. McDonald's isn't something that I would suggest doing all the time. But if you're in a pinch and you are really hungry and you're out and that is all that's available, you can make that work for you. So I go to the screens and I literally press triple cheeseburger and I customize it. And it's very easy. I take off what I want to take off. So I'm left with just like, depends on how I feel. I either sometimes have the cheese because the cheese is pretty bad. So sometimes I have it and sometimes I don't. But because the meat is quite plain from there, a lot of times I do have the cheese. It's not often. And it just means that it can sustain me for that day.
So it's literally just a little and often thing. If you're out, you're in a pinch.
It's not often. It's not something that I would say, yes, do that. But the thing is, we cannot guarantee anything. So even if you look at organic farming, they can try to follow all the organic rules. This is actually how they're allowed to do it. So they can follow the rules. If then their crops fail, they're then allowed to do it again, but using pesticides.
Right.
Because they've tried, but they can still call it organic.
Just because they've tried and failed, they don't have to try again.
Yeah.
So that's very worrying because that we should always be allowed to know exactly what it is that we are consuming. I mean, it's this whole route at the moment. The fact that with the Beauvais, Arla perhaps has been testing this in their milk before we've been told.
I saw something this morning actually, what a friend shared, and it was that they've been doing that since July. Which is crazy. It's insane that they're allowed to get away from it because we should have freedom of choice. We should be able to choose, okay, we know that's in there. Yeah. Do we want to do it or not? Like
if someone wants to go and drink Arla milk, knowing what's in it, when they have the choice to drink pure milk, then that's totally their prerogative. But we need to be able to have the choice. We do.
For me personally, I find milk the one thing that I wouldn't kind of lower my standards on. So I will only get that from the farm, to the point of when my car broke down, I got on my push bike and I put a backpack on there and it was 10 miles there, 10 miles back. And I just did that. I rode past all of the supermarket shops.
Fair play.
And there's no way I was going to get that for my family. So I went and rode on the bike, got there, filled it up with as many as I could fit in my backpack and then rode back.
Me and my mum have started doing that. We've got a farm about 45 minutes away that is the nearest one to us, that 45 minutes there and back. And
oh, wow.
So like,
it's even more.
I bought like 20 pints at a time, I think.
Do you freeze it?
No, I haven't been, because to be honest, we just get through it that quick.
Oh, wow.
I've got my whole family onto it. My brother likes it, my mum likes it, I like it. We get through it fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think since I've been going to this farm and I've been posting about it a lot, they get a lot of custom.
Well, hopefully now that we've got all this Beauvais thing going on, because obviously the raw milk market, it's brilliant, but it's small. And maybe now that we've got all this Beauvais argument and the whole thing with Arla, maybe a lot of farmers will start to cotton on and go, hang on a minute, maybe we could actually use this to make ends meet now, whereas maybe it couldn't before, and maybe the market will get bigger.
I think it's really unfair the way they treat farmers. Farmers are the hardest working people and they feed us.
Yeah.
They feed us, they nourish us, and they don't earn enough.
Yeah.
They don't. And it's really hard work. They've got to be up, like sometimes it's a 24-hour job. They've got to look after animals, and no matter what the vegans say, they care about their animals.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt of that. Yeah. I had a friend who grew up on a farm, and there was a cow that passed away of natural causes, and she was depressed for weeks. She'd named it and everything. She was absolutely beside herself. And yeah, you can't tell me that these farmers, unless it's a commercial farm, where because I've seen horrific videos of the way that they treat
I think
the animals.
They're normally in third world countries, but and they use to scaremonger us. And I was fooled by it at once. I remember having conversation for maybe a whole year. I put my whole family on oat milk, which is ridiculous. This is before carnivore, obviously. And at that time, I was doing a lot of juicing, and I was plants are best, that kind of stuff.
The Blockheads, the legendary band that backed Ian Dury, are still going strong and gigging all over Christmas. You can catch them this Saturday on the 14th of December at Dingwalls in London, supported by the Freedom Band Raw Milk Conspiracy. And there will also be a Christmas gig in Southend-on-Sea at Chinnery's on the 22nd of December, with support from Freedom Act's Whom by Fire and Trevor John. For tickets and more information, including merchandise, please go to theblockheads.com.
But I did want to talk to you about the juice fast, because didn't that start? Was it your cousin? I believe had a cancer scare. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to hear
Not
about
a scare.
that.
She had cancer.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
she
sorry.
had stage 4 brain tumor.
Oh wow,
Which was pretty horrific, because she was only, I think she was about 26. She had 2 young girls as well, and it was a massive shock to the family. And we're a really close family, so we had meetings all together and decide, should she have the standard treatment? Should she avoid some things? So I don't know what I can speak about on here. But
no, well, whatever really. I mean, it's fairly open. Most subjects kind of up for grabs.
yeah.
So you mentioned in your other videos that you were trying to get her onto different diets, trying to find any way at all to help her. And the only one that she would accept was the juice fast.
Yeah,
And,
unfortunately.
Yes. And you ended up doing that along with her. Was that in support, or was it just, you just thought you'd try it out?
Yeah. I think I was doing the juice fasting before that, but for reasons where I wanted to be slim, basically. Now I like to look at things from a health perspective instead of being skinny. Because what I did is I used to do month-long juice fasts, and what I would do is make the juices for the day for myself and my cousin. I would drive a few towns out to where she lives, deliver those to her, and then just do the process every day. And that actually did help, because she's not good with her diet, and that stopped her from eating as much junk. So in that way, it was helpful. But what I found is the longer I was juicing, I was feeling cold all the time. I was, my monthly cycle completely stopped.
Really?
My hair was falling out. I was very skinny. I remember, how old was my nephew? He was a child at the time. And we were joking around and we measured our arms, and mine were smaller than his. And that's ridiculous.
Wow.
At the time, this little child.
Yeah.
And so I got very skinny. I was really into the gym at the time. So, and I was known as the fitness queen. Everyone wanted to come and train with me because I was training all the time. But what I was finding is even skipping, I was doing in my ankle. I would carry on because I was determined. So I would just hop, skip. But I was getting injuries constantly, and also blacking out at the gym.
Oh, really?
I remember being, they've got all the dumbbells, and they normally have a big mirror.
Yeah.
I remember with the dumbbells, I was doing some bicep work, and I couldn't see anything. I stupidly finished my set and then went and sat down, and my friend was like, look, just eat something. This juice detox isn't doing. But because in my mind, it was doing so good for me, I didn't really question it. And it's not until now I can look back and think, wow, there was a lot of things that come up, like I was getting some memory loss as well. And then what happened is a friend of mine was a PT in the same gym that I was going to, and he said, I'm going to do this diet plan. And the diet plan was actually a carb cycle. You have days where it's high carb, low fat, and then low carb, high fat, and then a medium in between. And actually I was finding that I really enjoyed the low carb, high fat diet day. Okay. That was my favorite one. And I remember speaking to the guy that made this meal plan for me, and he was saying, oh, my favorite days are high carb. And I was like, you're joking, aren't you? I can't stand, that's my worst day. Because it was just eating lots of rice, and it was just like, kind of forcing it down.
Yeah.
But I did regain a lot of the health that I lost with juicing. And I remember at that time, this is before I had my youngest child, my 4th child. And I remember at the time saying to everyone, I'm never juicing again. I feel really good. I was feeling warm, and, I just felt good. I was getting stronger at the gym, and things were reversing. My cycle came back, and just so happens that this diet was also really high in meat. The protein was really big on this diet plan. So that did me well up until I had my 4th child and I came off of that diet.
So, am I right in thinking that you have a type of blood condition?
Yes, yeah.
A type of thalassemia, is it? So can you just explain what that is?
It's beta and alpha thalassemia, which actually, when I had my son, which was my 2nd child, I was called into the doctors, the hospital, because he has H disease, and they were saying to me, there's no way that he can have this with your blood. And then they realised I've got a really rare form, that basically they had to take my blood and my family's blood and my mum's blood, send it off, and they actually grew it for 8 months in Harvard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that they could find it. And then they realised that I've got alpha and beta thalassemia, which you're not really meant to be able to have at the same time.
Right, okay.
But I do have that.
So a bit of a medical anomaly.
Yeah. So what they say is that, you can be anemic and all these things. And what I find with myself and family members is you have low iron and your red blood cells are smaller, so can flag up quite often with the doctors. Okay. And it can make you really tired. Although it says it doesn't, it does, because that is what happens. But the funny thing is, when I've gone back since being carnivore and had all my bloods done, the doctor was shouting at me saying, your blood shouldn't look this good, because they actually improved.
Yeah, I did want to talk to you about this doctor, because you mentioned it on the other video, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating that, as you said, your doctor was like, your blood sugar or pressure, which one is it, sorry?
It was actually my my iron levels. So
right, okay.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be able to change, because that is my
So because of your condition,
makeup.
Your levels were supposed to stay
stay
or
the same. If anything, get worse. They expect things to get worse. They expect.
And all of a sudden you just shot up and you'd improved, great, and you were a picture of blood health as well. And what I found really striking about what you said about your doctor is that he wasn't overly interested in finding out. Because if I was your doctor, I'd be going, so how'd you do that then? What did you do? Tell me everything, because I'd be wanting to help other patients with this.
Yeah.
And you are definitive proof, but you didn't seem that interested.
No, the sad thing is, normally what you find with doctors is they say, wow, you've improved so much. This is amazing. What are you doing? And you tell them you're just eating meat. Oh no, that's bad for you. You need to stop that.
Yeah. And they'll push another drug on you.
Yeah. That's the thing. So what I call like standard medical care is disease management. They're kind of putting a Band-Aid on it, but they're never addressing it and reversing it. Yeah. It's management. And long-term management means normally more drugs, more medication that they can provide you with to manage this thing, not to reverse it and not to cure it, but to manage it. And it's quite clever.
Yeah.
Because the more medications you are on, you just look at that leaflet in the medication and see the side effects and see what is going to happen to your health if you're taking this medication. Even things like folic acid.
Yeah.
Everything has a side effect, apart from changing your diet. The side effect to changing your diet is actually improve good health all round. So that's the way to bypass Big Pharma if you want to do that.
Yeah, because a lot of people have said a lot about, natural remedies is becoming more of an increasingly popular thing, thank goodness. People are looking for herbal remedies for everything. And usually, if you look in the right places, there usually is a herb or some kind of natural remedy for everything, every condition, every illness, every whatever. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your tallow cream, which you have with you here today.
Yes.
What exactly is tallow? What are the benefits of it? And what is it like when you compare it to mainstream moisturizers? You've got your Nivea and all these types of things and all these things that are shoved with chemicals. How would you compare those things?
So when you're looking at standard cosmetic care like moisturizers, what you don't realize is actually how many chemicals they have in those that are going to disrupt your hormones. And what they found is, when they've tested these creams out before, especially with things like sun cream, is these creams are still in your blood system months later.
Wow.
From one use. They're still be in your blood. Yeah, your skin is your biggest organ. And really, if you feel like you can't eat something, then you shouldn't be putting it on your skin. So the tallow that I've got is basically animal-based. The main skin food version that I sell is basically just tallow that's whipped and purified. So I purify that until it comes to a really nice white in colour to get rid of all the impurities. It goes through multiple steps to do that. And then I whip it up and it comes to a really nice, luxurious cream. I've recently just started to add emu oil, which is mine. I haven't launched it yet, but I have let some people try it and it's got some rave reviews.
So what would be the benefits of emu oil then?
So emu oil actually absorbs deeper into your skin. Okay. And it also, because it's got the tallow there, it will bring the tallow with it. So it can be more nourishing that way. It's got a higher natural SPF than tallow. And what it does is, so a lot of people that are making tallow products, so let me go back a little bit and explain what tallow is. Tallow is basically cow fat.
Okay.
Cow fat that you, I use the wet method in a pot to kind of bring it to what it is. Mm-hmm. So that's the rendering process. So basically, yeah, it's cow fat rendered down in a certain way to get rid of the impurities and to really just, so you've left with something that's virtually scent-free. And it's just really luxurious and very nice. It gives your skin a really nice glow. I've had feedback from customers that kind of message me and say, wow, I had some wrinkles on my forehead, they've now gone. Or I had psoriasis after the first time putting it on, it relieved it straight away and now it's gone. Same with eczema, rosacea, stretch marks. I've had someone message me to say that it reduced their stretch, the appearance of stretch marks. So it's really quite fantastic and it's completely natural with no toxins in it whatsoever.
Well, that's like gold this day and age.
Yeah, it's really unheard of. But if you go for like the skin food one, that's got 2 ingredients in it. And that's only if it's scented. If you go for the fragrance free, it's got 1 ingredient and that's a purified tallow.
Wow. That's how all products should be. Literally, you go on it and you usually you look at the back of a cream of Nivea or something like that and you see all these words that you don't even know how to begin to pronounce.
Oh, it's crazy. And there's some in there that there's a scientist that I follow, Dr. Anthony J. And if you go on his website, he will break it down and he actually has, he does YouTube videos and he will bring out a study and he will say this, this and this. And he will go through it, explaining exactly why each chemical is bad for you and what it does to your body. He also does that on tap water, on toothpaste.
Yep, fluoride.
And he's got some fantastic videos on fluoride as well. Mm-hmm. So he's a great guy to look into. He's very small in any social media space, but he's very knowledgeable and it's definitely worth. And it's worth looking at the studies yourself as well. Yeah. Like going back to when you said, some people think that meat causes cancer. And so I was looking at a study recently, meat causes, I can't remember what this study was, but basically when people think it's suggested that meat is causing this issue, if you go to the methodology and then you realize it's based on a survey and that survey, this particular one that I saw recently, the survey the food logs only had to be filled out for 3 days of the week, every other week.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine there's no testing involved. What in science we call it, they need to control for healthy user bias. And healthy user bias is, does the person smoke? Does the person drink? Are they doing any other healthy or, detrimental habits?
What could be affecting the experiment? You have to make it a fair test.
Exactly. But when you look into studies, there's really no good studies on diet. One, because it's not ethical. It's not deemed as ethical. Because if you want to do a study, you need to get identical twins. You need to lock them in a lab. And you need to control for everything.
Yeah.
So you need to control when they're sleeping, the temperature, you need to control for all the foods they're putting in their mouth. You need to control for everything. But basically, some of these studies, meat causes cancer studies, they will send out these food logs once every 2 to 4 years. Imagine getting a food log every 2 to 4 years. And then you've got to go back and think, right, how many cups of greens did I have? All these different things, like, it would be really difficult.
Yeah, and that's what we've based all of our dietary assumptions on, all of the, I'm just going to say, all of the propaganda that we get saying, vegetables, fruit, good, and meat and salt and eggs, bad, and all these sorts of things. And it's just, it really makes you doubt our, I suppose, so-called nutritional system, and it makes you re-question everything that we think we know about health and nutrition.
Yeah, it does. When you look into it, it's really quite shocking that we're basing that. And also, the other thing to add is on these, it's called epidemiology studies, and that is survey-based, and it cannot tell you this causes this risk. A scientist can say, we believe that it does this, but they can never say it causes it. It's not causal. They would have to go on to do a different type of study with more weight on it, where they're actually testing and controlling things. And even then, as I said, it's not ethical. So when you're looking at epidemiology, they class a pepperoni pizza as red meat.
Oh, wow.
Now, so the red meat on there is very small.
Yeah.
It's probably the smallest ingredient on there.
I was going to say, it's
and
not
it's
the main
processed.
part. Yeah.
You know, show me some pepperoni that doesn't have dextrose in it, which is sugar. So, you know, when you really look into it, it doesn't make sense at all.
That's absolutely fascinating. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover that you feel like people really ought to know about carnivore versus veganism, or perhaps the juice fast, or just anything that might be interesting to our viewers to know?
I would say that, so I have tried a lot of different diets, and throughout the years I have been seen as this healthy person, which I have been for most of my life. I have never felt as good as I do doing meat only. Not only that is when I went on the diet, I found that because what I didn't mention earlier, when I was juicing a lot, it really advanced my aging and it made me look a lot older than I was.
Oh, wow.
Bringing back the meat in a high quantity and doing the kind of carb cycle diet plan that I told you about earlier, that reversed a lot of those issues. But then when I went on the carnivore diet, that made my skin improve so much more as well. And then when I found using when I came to tallow and working out this skin products, that helped my skin even more. So I just think when you're looking at it, like even the tallow, it's got, you know, nutrients A, D, E, and K. It's got some B12 in there as well, and it's the ratio of omega-3 to 6 is like close to 1:1. So when you're looking at these things and they're being touted as something that's really bad for us,
Yeah.
how can it be bad? You know, show me a cave painting of salads. You know, what did we prize back then when there was no consumerism? What did we prize? The other thing as well, I've got a funny story. When I was speaking to a friend before, and she was kind of dating and on the dating scene, and I was saying to her, oh, let me have a look at what he looks like. And I looked and I said, oh, he looks like he's vegan. And she went, he is. And I said, he looks like he's been vegan about 3 years. She went, oh, he has been.
Stop it. That's brilliant.
And we were actually dying in the car. And then I think she relayed this to him and he's not vegan anymore.
Oh, that's hilarious. Maybe
Yeah.
he's carnivore now. Who knows?
Oh, I don't know. But it would be interesting to find out.
It would
Actually,
be interesting.
The funny thing is, when I became part of the freedom movement, I used to go out with all my friends and they would be talking. I always wore to protest, and I would wear my pro-meat tops to get people talking. And when we went out for dinner, people would be like, oh, the alkaline diet is where good health is. And then fast forward after I'd known everyone for a while and, you know, we'd all become really close. We all went out for dinner and I'm sitting there, I kind of sat back and everyone's saying, oh yeah, animal fats and meat is where good health is. And I was like, well done, Rachel. Everyone had turned around. Everyone in that group that was vegan is not vegan anymore.
I feel like you've done your job.
Mostly carnivore, yeah. And they're all telling me how good they feel.
Yeah.
Because there is a vegan look. It's kind of greyish skin, sunken eyes, thinning hair. It's not usually a good look, especially long-term vegans. And sadly, people are doing this a lot of the times because they think they're doing the right thing.
It's also a lot
for
of
the planet.
Guilt and shaming people
And
into this lifestyle.
Yeah, why should we be guilted and shamed out of what I call the proper human diet?
Yeah. Well, it's what, if the further you go back in history, it's what we did. It's what our ancestors did. It's what our bodies were built to do. And as I said earlier, it just feels like everything that we know about nutrition is all they're trying to do is divert from what's natural.
Yeah. A lot of the time science is bought and paid for, unfortunately. And you'll find that they don't always, state the conflict of interest, but there is usually a conflict of interest there. Like a lot of the studies condemning meat are from Seventh-day Adventists. Now, they are a religiously vegan group and they actually control a lot of the studies. They do a lot of the studies. So when you look at these studies, always look at who's actually performing the studies and see if there's a conflict of interest.
And who has interest in it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made on veganism, because they can sell this cheap food and they can give it a markup. You know, before, years ago, what I noticed recently is when you get the fake leather, used to be dirt cheap. Now they put a vegan sticker on it. It's more expensive.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like, yeah, this is trendy.
Or they can do it with anything. I mean, you only have to look at the pink tax.
Pink tax.
Pink tax. It's basically a body wash, for instance, that will be for men, and then there'll be one for women. And just because they've changed the scent and put it in a pink bottle, it's more expensive.
Nice.
And it's called the pink tax. And it's where most female products, even if they are literally the same product and it's just a cream or something like that, but they've advertised it towards women, it's more expensive. And yeah, they'll do it with anything. There's no limit. I mean, saying is all in time, more infections, more money. I mean, it's all connected.
They don't want to cure us.
No,
because that doesn't earn the money.
Oh no, of course not. That would be awful, wouldn't it? If we were all healthy and didn't have to go to the doctors ever again.
Talking about that, there's actually a really amazing clinic in Budapest called Paleomedicina. Okay. They may have changed their name recently. I've met the lady that runs it a couple of times, and she has done some incredible work. She's studied, and basically what she does in her clinic is she reverses, improves, cures, what you like to call it, cancer.
Oh, wow.
With a meat-only diet.
Wow.
She tests this as she's going as well. So what she finds is if they start then including vegetables in their diet, their cancer growth increases.
Wow.
So then she's like, right, you have to draw back on this. And then it starts, either it stays the same size or it reduces. So there's some people that go to her clinic and they've had this, the cancer, kind of like what my cousin had, which was a stage 4 brain tumour. And they've basically been able to survive past, multiple years past their kind of given date of living, just by changing diet and having some therapeutics in there as well. She's got multiple studies, very good, very well-run studies that actually she thoroughly tests her patients. She's very, very, she watches them very closely, yet no one will publish them.
Interesting.
Multiple studies.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And she's fantastic, she is. And she does notice if you add a little bit of this in, even the protein she keeps to a certain number. So when your body is in such an ill state like they would be in, they like to have it really high fat and a moderate protein. So that seems to work really well. Going back to Michaela Peterson, who you mentioned earlier. She's amazing. I've spoken to her a few times online. She had a type of arthritis, basically, and she had some joints replaced. And is it a TED Talk? I think it's Michaela Peterson, Don't Eat That, on YouTube. And there's a video where she goes through the state of health she was in. That's obviously Jordan Peterson's daughter. And then what she's like now. And so she had so many replacements as a child and then as a teen. And then she found this diet and she's reversed her illnesses. So she could have avoided those replacements and actually had a better outcome. But that video is quite amazing because she was saying basically she was dying.
Well, that's crazy.
And now if you see her now, she's very healthy.
I mean, that sounds obviously, it was very, very severe. Her health was in a dire situation. And when people usually hear the word diet, like I said earlier, it's all about losing weight. It's all about looking nice. It's all a vanity project, more than actual health, longevity, peak physical condition. Whereas the more we talk about this carnivore diet, the more it becomes apparent that it's not just about gaining weight. I mean, it's for your skin, helps with fight off cancer, disabilities, joints, mental clarity, aging, hair, bones. It's all just everything. It encompasses absolutely everything. And it would make sense that would be one of the main reasons that it's smeared quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because as we were saying earlier, why would you want everyone to be healthy? Why would you want that?
Yeah. They need to make money.
But yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. I think it's been really, really fascinating. I know we did cover it just at the very beginning, but if you just want to give everyone your socials so that they know where to find you and tell them a little bit about your cream and where to get that.
Yeah, so if you want to find me, it's at carnivore.fitness on Instagram mainly, but you can find me across most socials. For the creams, it's again Instagram and it's at tallow.glow, and you can message me on those things and I'm actually having a website built for me at the moment for my creams. That's coming soon. So it'll be easier to order soon. But at the moment, it's just everything's through Instagram.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really
good.
Yeah. For more exclusive behind-the-scenes content, please be sure to subscribe to our Patreon. It really helps us cover the cost of any live streams, events, protests, or anything that we do. You'll also be seeing any behind-the-scenes footage and anything that we might be doing with Defiance Records.
Some of the key figures in the movement as you've never seen them before, painted by me, Jake Fern, with half of my brain concentrating on making a painting and half my brain concentrating on having a conversation. Do I succeed at either or both? You be the judge. Tune in on Tuesday the 17th of December for the first instalment of Resistance GB's 1,000 Words with David Icke.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's far better than I thought. Hello. This is great.